Hi, welcome to Gershwinwoodcraft, and today we're going to talk about pen turning. The first thing I started doing on the lathe was turning pens, and they turned out to be fantastic gifts. And there are countless videos on YouTube on how to turn a pen, and there's nothing I can add to that. But what I found overwhelming was all the selection of pen kits. There are so many different kinds offered by so many different manufacturers, and so many of them are so similar that you find yourself getting dizzy trying to figure out which ones to do, and they're very expensive to get started with a kit. So I thought it might be helpful to give you a little tour of some of my favorite pen kits and some of the ones I like the least. Okay, the 5 pens we're going to look at today are the Slimline, the Monet, the Cigar, the Junior Gentleman's, and the fountain pen. This is the Slimline. If you took a class in pen turning, if you bought a pen turning starter kit or anything like that, it's always going to give you the Slimline. It is, in my opinion, the most unforgiving and difficult pen there is to turn. I suspect people start with it because it's cheap. The starter kits can be as little as $1.50 and as much as maybe $6. So it's a very inexpensive way to introduce yourself to pen turning, but as I say, it's a very difficult pen. I'm now going to go over the kit and why it's so hard. The Slimline pen is basically going to be 2 7mm tubes. A little tip, I think these are called the pistons, and there are 2 different types of clips you'll find. There's the Euro style that gives you this little dome, which I think is more attractive, or the regular clip. What makes this pen so difficult to make is this part right here. When you hold the pen, your hand is going to sit right there on that edge, right where the metal and the wood join. That's going to be the natural position. If when you turn this pen, you are even a smidge too big on the wood, you're going to have this rough edge of the wood against your finger. If you're a smidge too small, you're going to have the rough edge of the metal against your finger. You have to get it exactly right or it will not feel comfortable. So, with that understanding, go for it, enjoy it, make this pen. As long as you're going to go for it, it's such a simple pen, you can start having fun with different designs. Maybe some fun inlays. This is a Euro style. Here's one that I made a long time ago. Just trying to have fun with what would ultimately be a rather simple pen. But again, these edges right here have to be perfect or the user will not be happy. The Cigar pen was my second pen I started making, and it was my favorite for a long time. First of all, when you're all done, you have a pen that you can feel in your hand. It's got a nice girth, nice weight, a little bit of heft to it. It is a full metal tip where your hand is not going to be at the seam. You of course always want the seams to be as perfect as possible, but it will not disturb the user if it's off by a smidge. The hardware is very nice and it comes in all different colors. The next one I want to talk about is the pen that varies the most from company to company. Wood and Whimsy calls it the Monet. Penn State calls it the Gatsby. Woodcraft calls it the Wall Street 2 pen. And there are many other names. There's also the Sierra, which is another version. And they're all very similar. They might have slightly different tube sizes and require slightly different bushings. But they're a really beautiful pen that both men and women like. It has a full metal shaft there, so you really don't have to worry about it being perfect. I would say this is the most forgiving pen to build. And because it is such a small part of wood, your average wood blank will support 2 pens, which is a nice savings. Now there are 2 fundamental differences in these brands. There are ones that twist in the middle here to extend the pen, and there are ones that twist on the top to extend the pen. This may seem like a minor difference. I feel it's a significant. I like the ones that turn in the middle. I think it's more comfortable, it's easier. You can sit there with one hand and turn it like this, whereas the ones on the top seem to be just a little bit more awkward to retract the pen. The next pen we're going to talk about is the Gentleman's 2 pen from Wood Turner's catalog. This is one of the more reasonable priced two-piece pens, what I would refer to as a presentation pen, and it really is a beautiful pen. You can get them in the fountain tips. This is the retro, which is a little more expensive. It's got a little bit more embellishments on it. Here's another retro in rhodium. That was one of the most expensive kits I buy. It's a whopping $27. And here's the gold. These are very simple pens to turn, and people are always very, very impressed to receive them. And obviously, you get to have a lot more fun when you have this much wood to work with. You get to do more complicated inlays in this situation. The last pen we're going to talk about is the Executive Fountain Pen, which I purchased from Wood & Whimsy, but I believe they are reselling it from Penn State because they have a very similar pen. There are two models, one that has a little bit more embellished center ring. This pen right here, for example, is one of the first pens of this style I turned 7 years ago, and despite everything else I've done, this is the pen I choose to use every single day. This is the pen that I panic most when I don't have. Compared to many of the other pens, it's a little bit longer, it's a little bit thinner, and unlike other pens that have to have this screw top in order to post the cap, this one takes a little bit more skill, but the cap simply tapers to fit in like a more traditional store-bought pen. I'm a fan of the fountain pen. Once you start writing with a fountain pen every day, it's hard to go back. And it really just feels very comfortable in the hand, both with or without the cap. Now, since this has this tapered design, it has a tapered barrel, which requires you to buy a special tapered bit. I don't know if you can see in the camera that it's got notches that will match the notches in here. It obviously takes a lot more time and practice to get the holes drilled exactly the way you want them, to get the ends done just the way you want them, and to taper it just the right way so that the cap actually fits on comfortably, not too far and not too little. But I think it's a very rewarding pen, and it makes a wonderful gift. Kind of looks like the Mont Blancs, or maybe I'm just fooling myself. Alrighty then, that was a quick and easy video for a Thanksgiving day. Gotta wrap things up and go inside and carve a turkey. I really thank you for coming by and checking out my video. Don't forget to go to my website, Gershwinwoodcraft.com, and I hope to see you again. Thanks.